Okay, so what happened to the Ukrainian phantom study? Well, when it first appeared, it also went viral, but then something very interesting happened. Let's rewind back to another guest on All Things Unexplained, Dr. Avi Loeb. And we're speaking with astrophysicist Avi Loeb, and I'm glad we went down this path about the scientific community because recently on this show, we attempted to do a deep dive into what appeared to be an explosive scientific paper, a team of Ukrainian astronomers. Shortly after we put that podcast out, we saw that you had a response to their study. If what they were saying had merit, it was potentially one of the most explosive, giant leaps of scientific discovery in human history, is the way I looked at it. Tell us what you saw when you looked at what appeared to be a Ukrainian astronomical study on UAPs.
So, the purpose of science is to increase the signal to noise ratio, basically reduce as much as possible the level of noise so that you can see the signal sticking out. Okay, that's what most experiments aim at. And that's why I was reluctant to even read the Ukrainian report, because there is a lot of noise in a war zone. Okay, that's the last place on earth where I would put my instruments, because there are all kinds of secretive drones and all kinds of equipment flying around. And anyway, after the visit of this person from government that I mentioned before, he urged me to think about writing a scientific paper about UAP. And I looked at the Ukrainian report the following morning, and what they claimed was to see two types of objects, bright objects and dark objects. And the dark objects, they said, are detected at a distance of about 10 kilometers, and they move at speeds that exceed the escape speed from the Earth, up to 15 kilometers per second. Okay, and they said these are 10 meters in size. And I immediately calculated that they would create a huge fireball if they were to interact with the air, like any object moving through the air. And the point is, they were claiming that they are dark. Okay, so clearly no fireball. So in order for them to be dark relative to the brightness of the air, they have to block light, electromagnetic radiation. And my point is, if they interact with electromagnetic fields blocking light, they should also interact with electrons in the atmosphere that produce electric and magnetic fields. So they cannot just block light and cannot block the particles of air. So my point is, they must interact with the air if they are dark relative to this, and therefore they must create a fireball. Now I said, okay, so what went wrong? It turns out that they didn't measure the distances in a reliable way. The best way to measure distances is by triangulation. If you measure the position of the object in the sky from different directions, just like we have two eyes so that we can estimate distances. All the animals, all the humans that had one eye did not survive, because when a tiger would come close to them, they would think the tiger is far away. And only those with two eyes could tell the distance of the tiger and manage to escape. So that's why we have two eyes, the survival of the fittest. So the way to tell distance is to watch an object from different directions. They did not do that. They had one sight observations of the dark objects, and they estimated distance indirectly. And I argued, okay, maybe they got it wrong. The distance is 10 times closer. So instead of 10 kilometers, it's 1 kilometer. And then you end up with a speed of 1.5 kilometers per second with a size of an object of 1 meter. And that turns out to be the parameters of artillery shells. So I said, they would not produce a fireball. These are artillery shells, or they could even be closer and be bullets, or even closer and be something smaller. So my point was that their distance estimate is incorrect. And I just wrote a quick paper about it. And until they demonstrate they measure distances correctly, we should not pay attention. And it turns out the Academy of Sciences of Ukraine released around the same time a statement saying that they don't believe the distance calculations of of this paper. Okay, so it was never internally reviewed. And so the thing that really surprised me was, as soon as my paper came out, those believers on UAP immediately started to attack me, because they said, well, this looks just like the Nimitz incident 20 years earlier. And I say, that's irrelevant. These people are, the only way to answer my criticism is by telling me why the distances are correct. Okay, that's the only way. You can't make analogies between an event occurring now and an event that occurred 20 years ago, because it's a different place and a different environment. This is a war zone. The Nimitz was not a war zone. So in order to eliminate all the possible objects that are flying around, such as drones, artillery shells, bullets, in order to eliminate them from being possible contributors to what these people reported, you have to tell me why the distance estimate is correct. And that's the only way to, but it showed to me that, by trying to maintain common sense, I get attacked from both directions. About Oumuamua, I get attacked by the mainstream of scientists. Right. And about the Ukrainian report, I get attacked by those believers that are not really paying attention to scientific details. And that shows to me why it's so difficult to maintain common sense in the current environment, that is very polarized on any subject. But I don't care about both extremes. I think, we should follow the scientific method and figure it out.
So according to Dr. Loeb, then head of AARO, Sean Kirkpatrick, visited his home, asked him about writing a paper on UAP, and Dr. Loeb wrote a scathing rebuttal of the cosmic phantom study from the Ukrainian scientist. He called that down-to-earth limits on unidentified aerial phenomena in Ukraine, and he essentially completely rebuked all of their mathematics and findings on the cosmics and phantoms. Not only did he question about doing such research in an active war zone, but he completely rebuked all of their mathematics and findings. Shortly thereafter, the observatory itself also disavowed the study by their own scientists, saying that their study was indeed flawed.